On Route 110 in the Hoenn region on the way up to Mauville City, there's a powerful boss battle waiting to take you down. But just before that, there's an optional gauntlet of incomprehensible wonders. The Trick House is a pretty unassuming building you might check out on your first pass, but potentially forget afterwards. Upon entering the building for the first time, it feels like you're being watched. After exploring, we can find the Trick Master hiding somewhere in the room. This location actually changes with each level, and it does one of those little sparkles when you first enter the door, like many other hidden item locations in the game. The Trick Master tells us about the puzzle he's prepared and invites us to try and solve it. There are 8 in total, each one being added as you progress through the game. So for the sake of analysis, I've run through all of them back to back, and that theme music has been running on repeat in my head ever since. As you would expect, the remakes of Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire have differences to the original, but there are even minor differences between the Ruby and Sapphire and the Emerald version. That's actually pretty cool, but today I'll be using a copy of Pokémon Sapphire, so let's dive right in. A handful of puzzles require HMs, as we see with the very first one having cut trees set up around the room. It's basically just a giant maze with some trainers sprinkled throughout, as are most of the future puzzles, but there's still a hint of uniqueness. Also, you see a bunch of items here and there, but they're just the different types of mail, so you don't need to collect them. Good thing too, because if you complete a challenge, you cannot go back and try and get them again. Though even if you reach the very end of the maze, the door is still locked. Because what you really need to do is locate a scroll with a hidden message that unlocks a door. Again, that basic concept is repeated in all 8 challenges. And when you really think about it, these are basically on the same level as gym challenges, except there isn't a big boss battle at the end and they aren't required to complete the game. This is a battle of wits against a weird old guy who thinks he's the best thing ever. Dude, all of the messages to unlock the door are always something praising him. This guy is unbelievable. Anyway, the first puzzle isn't all that difficult, and completing it rewards us with a rare candy. Also, the Trick Master compliments you at the end, telling you that you're almost his equal. This message changes depending on what level of the puzzle you've completed, serving as a little progress bar for the whole challenge. Puzzle number 2 is yet another maze with trap doors blocking access to certain parts. These giant buttons will close the doors, allowing you to cross over them. Not all that much going on here, but it was still a cool challenge. The prize for this one is a timer ball, not as cool as the rare candy, but it could come in handy. Puzzle number 3 steps it up with a maze of massive doors. Numerous switches are located throughout the room that will change which ones are open and which ones are closed, pretty similar to puzzles like Watson's Gym. Though here there are also breakable rocks that cover some of the switches. I like how some of the rocks block your path at the very beginning before you can even start, because it's a way to let the player know that they'll definitely need Rock Smash, ensuring that they don't get stuck later on. I found this one pretty interesting. With how the door maze works, you don't need to battle any of the trainers hanging out here to get to the end. You will need to battle one of them in order to obtain the item here, but again, that's not required. The reward for this challenge is a hard stone. Puzzle number 4 is another maze with giant boulders that require strength in order to move. This one feels a lot less interesting because I think there were already a decent amount of these throughout not only the main game but the previous games. And being halfway through the Trick Master's gauntlet, it feels a little uninspired. Anyway, the prize here is a smoke ball, one of the cooler held items. Puzzle number 5 is not a maze, but instead a series of quizzes given out by mecha dolls. These have the same overworld sprite as the Trick Master and get really upset if you answer a question wrong. They won't challenge you to a battle, but instead you get reset to the very beginning, so you have to answer the questions correctly back to back. I'm actually a fan of this one. It isn't really a brain teaser in the same way as the previous challenges, but I like that you really have to think and remember back or just guess really well if you don't remember some of the things that you're being quizzed on. I highly recommend not looking up the answers before challenging this one. It really adds to the tension. Also, I guess we can add mecha dolls to the list of weird things in Pokemon games, full-on robots that grill you on trivia that they shouldn't even know. Oh yeah, and the layout for this room is a giant question mark in Ruby and Sapphire or 2 exclamation marks in Emerald version. Now that's a twisted kind of genius. After taking down the mechanical menaces, we receive the TM for Taunt, probably one of the best things you can get, a very useful move. Puzzle number 6. This one brings back the rotating gates that we see in Winona's gym puzzle. These are a favorite of mine with just how much you have to think things through before actually moving forward. It's that little extra step to the mazes that we've really only ever seen in the Hoenn games. I kinda wish we would have seen them more often. This is the one that I made a minor mistake in and missed out on the mail item in the room, and I didn't feel like going back to reset for it. The real reward for this challenge is a magnet. Puzzle number 7 is a classic, featuring a mess of sliding arrows around the room. There are some switches to change the direction of a few arrows as well. Another one kind of recycled from a gym in the same generation, that being Liza and Tate's. I don't mind though, because in concept it's a theme that we see repeated in the whole series anyway. The Emerald version for this room is one of the most different, being a teleportation puzzle instead. After solving this one and obtaining a PP Max as a reward, the Trickmaster tells us that we're finally on the same level. But that doesn't mean we've reached the end of the gauntlet. He won't be satisfied until he completely stumps us. I'm actually getting pretty excited. And now puzzle number 8, the final challenge is an ice puzzle. Sure, it's another classic for the Pokemon games, but I think it's just really basic. There are a bunch of pots forming the borders and obstacles, which I thought would play into solving it, because interacting with them gives you a dialog box telling you that it's empty, but they don't really serve any purpose aside from forming the borders of the challenge. It didn't take me all that long to make my way to the scroll and eventually the exit. Honestly, I was getting really interested at the beginning because I thought that there would be some kind of key or switch hidden in one of the pots, making a combination of ice puzzles and the puzzle from Lieutenant Surge's gym, but I guess not. Well, it appears as if we finally bested the Trickmaster at his own game. Admitting defeat, he gives out one of the coolest items in the game, a red or blue tent for the secret base. I'm really glad that the final prize was a gimmicky aesthetic item rather than something really useful or necessary. It emphasizes the fun of the challenge, and really it's kinda meant to inspire the player to build their own puzzles inside a secret base. Really clever. But after this, the Trickmaster decides to travel the world in search of new ideas, completely defeated by the superior mind. So now, I hold the title of Trickmaster. Ha 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 ha. So that was the Trick House. Like I said, my mind is a bit fried going through every challenge back to back, but I kind of recommend going about it in the same way, even though you're really meant to repeatedly come back to it as you go about your journey. It's a really cool celebration of these types of mazes. There are already quite a few in the game, appearing in every gym and major city, so Game Freak deciding to make yet another optional area like this was just them flexing their abilities and ideas. The Trick House did appear in the anime. Episode 39, a Pokeblock party, sees Ash, Brock, May, and Max arrive at the Trick House, where the King of Tricks is hosting a huge event where several trainers are tasked with making their way through the maze. I think it's a fun episode and there are a lot of neat little comedic moments. There's a new character of the day, Alana, who has a Whisper, and they both join the main cast for the episode. We also see Jigglypuff make a return, which is a cool concept, adding an extra level of chaos to the whole event, and it even gets an interaction with Whisper, where we get to see the soundproof ability come into play. It's pretty cute that Jigglypuff finally finds someone who doesn't immediately fall asleep from its singing. In the end, some other guy wins a big prize because the main characters were too busy stopping Team Rocket, but it's a fun episode. Though I will say that I'm not really a fan of how the Trick House was translated into the anime, because here it's a big event with really flashy presentation. I much preferred the video game where the Trick House was literally just some guy's house that he converted into an attraction in order to show off his creativity, challenging anyone who happens to stop by, and the player character being the only person who can actually solve the puzzle, created a personal rivalry that inevitably ends with someone being outsmarted. It feels a lot more unhinged, and I think it's all the better for it. And that has been the Trick House of Route 110, one of my favorite little side events to complete in the Generation 3 games. It perfectly takes advantage of the grid-based structure of early Pokemon. While the aim of the entire game was still to become a champion, I love how there were other challenges besides the Pokemon League that grew and changed as you progressed. So let me know what you think about it in the comments below and tell me which puzzle is your favorite. Anyway, I think I really just need a good long rest. My brain is at its limit. Thank you to every channel member for your continued support, especially the great Gators. TF, Cheeseburger Lasers, Thimin Van Ryn, Cynical Medic, Post-Training Arc Cyberman, Choco Swig, Foxy Gamer 179, Bjorn the Fell-Handed, Ruby Trans Cutie, Ben's Quizzin, Marzi Beast, Bartholomew, The One Girl Into Video Games, Pio the Genius, DeAndre, 961 Pro, Justin Dowes, Moth Ballard, Mathaclock 947, Lockanox, Snowman Nobi, Alex Swiss, Pastel Blood, Taijirai, Justin R, Volity, Cosmo Zero, Phantom, and Quago. If you would like to support, see your name here, get access to emotes for comments, live streams, sometimes early videos, and some member exclusive content, you can become a channel member today. You can also follow me on Twitter as well for more memes. Anyway, this is GatorX, and I'll catch you all later.
Come on, let's go!
Get ready to catch a second all-new episode of Pokemon Advanced Challenge next, right here on Kids WB.